What ignorant belief or ideas automatically makes you think this person is out of touch? Anything about Earth not being round. Edit, it seems a handful of you seem to think I believe the Earth is a perfect sphere. So, to clarify, no, it's not a perfect sphere, it's an oblate spheroid ellipsoid, which is still technically considered round, e.g., an egg or a football. You sound like one of those round earthers. I am from Earth and a bit round, yes. I believe we like to use the word rotund equals p. My best friend's brother was telling me the one day years ago that he believed the Earth was flat. I literally started laughing my A off instantly since I thought he was joking. Then he says in this serious voice, "I'm not joking." Well, I already laughed in his face and there was no walking that back, so I just kept laughing lol. It's the best approach when dealing with them. Let them know that they shouldn't be taken seriously. Ever. Anybody who uses words like alpha male, betas, or simps. True. Or people that use sh like high value male, low value male. Value like beauty is always dependent on who you ask. Literally, I heard some dude talking about Logan Paul being a high value male because B is white. They've never heard him speak? Believing that anyone who isn't wealthy is lazy. I've always despised the notion that anyone can become wealthy with hard work. If that was true, you would see every construction worker, ditch digger and garbage man driving $100,000 cars into the driveways of their $1 million mansions. My dad worked 60+ hour weeks every week. He was gone before I woke up for school, and didn't get home until after we had already sat down for dinner. Oftentimes he would eat and then get a call and have to head back to work. He died at 49, because he was too busy to go to the doctor for his high blood pressure. He was making $13 HR when he died, at a company he'd been working for over 10 years. Where they functioned so poorly without him that he worked 20+ overtime hours every week because the place fell apart without him. Meanwhile, I made more than that in my first internship after college. I've never worked a day as hard as him in my life, but am vastly more successful. Hard work does not equal wealth, and poverty does not equal laziness. That's hard to read. I don't like when people kill themselves for any company. They don't give a sh about you. If anything, it's the other way around. Don't the wealthy pay other people to work for them? Now that's what I call lazy. In the early labor movement, it used to be unquestioned gospel that working people were strong and industrious, and the rich people were soft, lazy fops. There's still a lot of people, generally older, who think childcare is women's work. Not just men either. I do 95% of the childcare since I'm a stay-at-home mom and my husband is always traveling. We're pretty traditional. One of my aunts is blown away I allowed my husband to change and bathe our daughters. She thinks it's inappropriate I allow him to see our kids naked. The father of my children, she is so out of touch. That does not sound like it's about thinking childcare is women's work. It sounds like having some very effed up beliefs about human sexuality. It's both, I promise. Yeah, she is 100% sexualizing a baby. She also thinks I'm making my husband take care of his kids. Not that he actually want to. Is she sexualizing a baby or burying trauma? Maybe someone was inappropriate with her when she was young and now she places that screwed up cognitive pattern on all men. I can't wait for my first "Is Daddy babysitting?" comment. Oh, I dislike that one. I've gotten mad at people when they say that I'm babysitting my kids. No one wants to work anymore. To be fair, I don't know anyone that wants to work. But we all have bad habits we'd like to keep, like eating and having a roof over our heads. Thankfully, I'm a new humanoid prototype and I can just photosynthesize my food consumption. Anyone that still ties onions to their belt. But it was the style at the time. In those days, nickels had bubble bees on them. Give me 5 bees for a quarter, you'd say. Yes, it was a simpler, more genteel age, where for a few bees you could get a giant bag of whorehound candy from Sam that just to split with the gang back at the treehouse. Those days sure were some pumpkins. They think Reddit is representative of how people think in the real world. I knew a guy who would legitimately parrot Reddit viewpoints regarding work and employment. He was fired 3 times in a row during that phase. Which viewpoints? Reddit isn't exactly homogeneous. He discovered that disagreeable people make more, so he started being an $1. He didn't think working a normal 8-hour shift was acceptable, so he started arguing for a 4-hour shift with X2 the pay. He was also mad that he couldn't smoke W, given we used heavy machinery and Weddy D tested regularly. He also thought he should have a say regarding how the company was run. This was an entry-level job. People that think mental illnesses like depression, anxiety, bipolaric ADD don't exist, or that it's something people should just get over, or that it means you're weak. If anything, people with mental disorders are strong. They take on the world with a higher difficulty level than people without mental illnesses. Thank you for saying this. I needed to hear it today. Almost anything if, when presented with contrary or additional credible evidence, they resort to hackneyed tropes like those are just my beliefs or well, I'm free to have any opinion I want or other such discussion-killing nonsense. A personal favorite is when you present the evidence and they become condescending like PFF. You really believe everything they tell you, don't you, honey? They love the battle cry of do your own research. Then when you present actual facts or data, it's all deflection about how it's not the right information because it's not what they believe lol. Asks for facts. Facts are not in line with their opinion. Not like that. Honestly, many people get into echo chambers about their fears and treat them as truths despite the data often showing another picture. One example is often crime rates. Nearly every measure says that crime is down across the board for decades now, but people act as if there is murder on every street corner and every bit of information they find that agrees with their point is just proof that their gut feeling is right. Crime rates don't tell the whole story though. Cops aren't willing to take reports for lesser crimes so people feel like it's not worth trying. Every single day I take the subway into work. I encounter at least one unhinged person screaming and acting threatening. That's not reflected in any crime rate. But nothing you do will convince me that I am not justified when I feel unsafe around that person. It's not like they took perfect records before. And also, people also overestimate crime that does get reported as well. I don't think murders are the kind of crime that just doesn't get reported, while people overestimate murders, especially in comparison to the past, as well. Those who unironically believe in astrology. That's something an Aquarius would say. This is the first time my sign gets mentioned for anything and it's this? Where's Aquarius in the Instagram slideshows? Are we lame? You never hear anyone announce it's Aquarius SZN. When are you gonna grow out of video games? They're for kids. Really anyone that considers enjoying anything too childish gets on my nerves. I collect Matchbox cars, vinyl, and action figures, and even though I'm now 29 years old I still get that judgment from certain people in my family. It's my money, my life, and hopefully something I can pass on to my son one day, so mind your business. Bet those same people watch TV for hours a day. So true, and probably SHTV. People who make fun of other people's hobbies usually have absolutely none of their own. People who genuinely believe in Scientology. I mean, it definitely exists. The buck stops there. Anyone that thinks other people should have it hard just because they did. Sensing some parental resentment in this one. I went through some hardships growing up. Dad would say I had to do this So do you. The election was stolen and Trump was sent by sweet baby Jesus. Believing anything Orange Man says at this point. A recent study showed 70% of Republicans trust Trump more than the news, more than the government, and more than their own friends and families. It's a cult. Still believing that things like playing with dolls will make your son gay. Pretty sure anyone that thinks you can be made gay has never had a boner in their life, or they are repressing their own sexuality. It's all those gay men being so shy that made me gay. Kids like to simulate adults. They see someone with a baby, they may want to have a baby the doll. That any particular political party has the overall population's best interest in mind, at a national or global level. For me it's the ignorant belief that both sides are the same when it comes to the two major US political parties. Both sides are the same in the sense that every politician, at the end of the day, is just out to line their pockets. What they promise in return for the chance to line their pockets, however, is different. This is reductive and an example of the exact thing Op was asking about. Homeopathy. Look, we can talk about the placebo effect all day. That's real. Homeopathy, not so much. Homeopathy is sympathetic magic, but with an extra twist of illogic. That there's something wrong with queer people. They're just trying to exist. Leave them alone. If you have a problem with any group of people just for existing, who don't conform to an ideology that harms others, you're just an eye. That climate change isn't real. Either you live under a rock and haven't read the news, or gone outside, since 2016, which is bad, or you live in complete denial of basic scientific data and evidence, which is much worse. The same people are blaming wild climate events, Maui, on Joe Biden lol. Flat earthers. Some of the stuff that comes out of their mouths makes me think I'm looking at a farce comedy. Right? Flat Earth is so ignorant. Anyone with 2 brain cells and a spaceship held together with tin foil and duct tape knows it's a trapezoid. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to prepare my ship for launch. Thinking that because something was easy for them it should be easy for everyone. I really dislike this man. It happens a lot. Every person over 60 basically. The belief that poor are to blame for their health, their environment, food deserts, etc. are caused by the people in those neighborhoods. That atheists are bad people. I'm bad at math. Does that count? Legally speaking, yes. Sorry you had to find out this way. Thinking other people are oblivious because they are happy. Additionally, assuming that outwardly happy people have never experienced trauma or hardship. I find that a lot of annoying misanthropes seem to think that they're the only person in history who's struggled with mental illness, etc. There's a lot, but for me it kind of boils down to anyone confidently stating something that demonstrates that they don't really understand what they are confidently talking about. One that comes to mind from over the years, related to any sort of war or potential conflict situation. Why can't we just nuke them? If you seriously ask that question, then you know nothing about the nature of nuclear weapons and all that comes with them, and need to shut the heck up. Confidently ignorant. When someone doesn't believe mental health illnesses are real. Anti-vaxxers. A distrust of someone doesn't give alternative viewpoints credibility. That's just the autism from your vaccinations talkings. Standing at work all day is not healthy, and it does not look more professional. Interestingly, this belief flip-flops once you start looking at the high-paying office jobs for which we're all supposed to strive. It's very strange that the sitting makes you lazy comments come from those who have a place to sit. That a woman should remain a virgin until she is married. I hold more of a be cautious and safe until marriage. Also, don't be offended if partner wants you both tested before marriage. Once in a marriage, stay in the marriage, barring unsafe circumstances. A multitude of people will lie about being positive for STDs or not know about being sick. So I personally would want both of us to know we aren't carrying anything before having S. It's a red flag in my world if my partner would refuse to be open with me about their sexual health. That's reasonable. That anyone should remain a virgin until marriage. It really shouldn't matter. People who just straight up don't believe in science. I had a conversation with my uncle about something and cited research from a medical journal and he was still like, well, I don't believe that. It sounds wrong. Like, yeah, we can find that things may change over time. But just to straight up say a peer-reviewed article is wrong just blows my mind. Still supporting Trump. Don't get me wrong. I've known a lot of informed and clever conservatives and got nothing against the party. But that guy in particular has no redeeming qualities. He's bad for this country from the foundation up, and even worse for the GOP itself. Someone's gotta have their head buried pretty deep in hatred not to see it by now. I've heard several people who support him even still after getting arrested like it's completely phony and he still did nothing wrong. How can people simply not fathom Trump doing something illegal? Trump is a plague on the Republican Party. There are some decent candidates this time around. But Rump is leading the polls for primaries. Like F. People, why? It's also the Southern rednecks, too. Like, why on God's green earth are you practically worshipping a corrupt, rich Yankee? I don't have a problem with Northerners, but the numbnutses that vote for Trump usually do. When they have strong convictions regarding opinions they have about whole groups of people. All men, women, teenagers, Christians, Canadians, mailmen act, think X way because insert simplistic BS. Especially all DS. D. I have some old friends from high school, I'm almost 40, who believe they're not making enough because their taxes are going to welfare bums. And they refuse to realize that corporate welfare is not only more than social welfare, but it doesn't do anything for the economy as a whole anywhere near what social welfare does. That all women wear makeup exclusively for the male gaze. I remember seeing a clip of Jordan Peterson explaining how makeup is designed to replicate what a woman's face looks like during orgasm, blushed cheeks. So therefore it shouldn't be allowed in the workplace if men and women are to work together because it will turn the men on. I was thinking, man, what century is this guy living in Lamau? Anyone that thinks because other people should have it hard just because they did. The minute someone says homeless folks shouldn't have fancy smartphones, I know they're a hollow-headed bird. Smartphones with internet are absolutely critical for unhoused folks to access social services, for keeping in contact with medical providers, case workers and family, for accessing email and applying for jobs. Smartphones are a functional necessity for so many folks experiencing homelessness, and I'm forever hearing self-congratulatory jerk-offs saying like, don't spend money on an iPhone if you're so broke, when an iPhone might be someone's lifeline to help and support. Smartphones are literally $3,050 now. Those who form political opinions simply from what others tell them. That's most people on Reddit lol. Fast food workers don't deserve a living wage. Those kinds of jobs are for students. Oh, okay. So I assume that means you never go out for lunch when the kids are in school? People who justify reverse prejudice think all people of X group, economical, cultural, etc., are evil, generally if they say things you would see on the Reddit front page or as a popular Twitter opinion. The phrase reverse prejudice was always funny to me. Just prejudice with extra letters. Anyone who believes the Bible is God's word or takes it literally. People who believe that the COVID vaccine was alien DNA. Thank you, Fox News. That's one I hadn't heard yet. Automatically agreeing or disagreeing with someone simply because of their political party. 99% of the the Kardashians say. You left out 1%. They know how to market and advertise their The 1% of them that isn't stupid is actually a really good business manager. When people say Bush did 9/11, Cheney was clearly pulling the strings. Jet fuel doesn't melt dank memes. People who think poor people deserve it or need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. It's about heritage, not dislike. A typical rebel flag supporter. A heritage of dislike. A state's right to what? A buddy of mine has some sort of fancy college degree in U.S. history, with his specific area of study being around the political conditions leading to and resulting from the Civil War. He knows if I'm calling him after regular business hours it's so he can absolutely destroy one of these dumbasses over speakerphone. He seems to really enjoy it. We all do, really. Women aren't entitled to do what they want with their bodies. i.e., abortion, getting their tubes tied. Ugh, same. I've been trying to pin down a doctor that will tie the darn things without 3 children. That everything, including, or especially, tragedy, happens according to God's plan. Yeah, when you have nothing going for you and they're like, well, I guess God has something in store for us. My mom is one of these people. Libertarianism as a whole. If libertarians could read, they'd be very upset right now. I had an acquaintance who considered himself a libertarian and he never heard the saying that libertarians are like house cats. I'm not saying I changed someone's view on life, but after I explained it to him and the intricacies of what he uses that's paid for by society every day, I cannot think of any time after he referred to himself as a libertarian. When a child dies from a long battle with cancer, and the family says something along the lines of it was just God calling them home or the Lord works in mysterious ways. No, Janice, your effing child unfortunately had a long and arduous battle with a horrible disease and their little body just couldn't effing take it anymore. Despite the best efforts of every medical professional who did their absolute best to help. If you want to believe in God, then fine. But at least accept that God made your baby suffer an agonizing span of time before he had enough fun torturing them and decided, okay, you can come hang here with me now. In the same vein, when people say you beat cancer, you're such a fighter. As if people who died of cancer didn't fight enough or some BS. I dislike that so much. You don't beat cancer, you survive cancer. Anyone who actually believes that vaccines cause autism. The study that claimed this was widely and vehemently debunked and slammed by scientists for being complete BS. Countless studies since then have disproved it too, and yet some people still use it to push an agenda. Anything that would indicate they at all trust the government. I mean, there are some things that you can absolutely trust the government to do. Collecting taxes, for example. They think chupacabra isn't real.